Hello, this is James Mitchell, and I'm here with this week's Lenormand Outlook reading. The deck that's going to assist us in this week's reading is the Piatnik Lenormand, and I'll hold the box up. Piatnik Lenormand. This is considered one of the more traditional Lenormand decks on the market. So again, this is the Piatnik Lenormand. And I've already taken the liberty of shuffling the deck, cutting the deck, fanning the cards, and picking the 5 cards is going to represent this week's line of 5 reading. And if you're no stranger to my videos, you know that when I do a line of 5, I always start with the middle card because the middle card informs us as to what the focus or the central issue for the week could be. So having said that, this week's card is the tree. So now a couple of meanings for the tree for me is that the tree can represent growth and development, and with that I see that as either personal growth and development or spiritual growth and development. It also can represent health and healing, and for me it can also represent life because I sometimes see the tree as the tree of life. So, and then I always see that too as our connection to life because of the roots in the tree connecting it to the earth or the ground. So I always see that as our connection to life itself. So those are some of the meanings of the tree. And so now we're going to look at the cards that are flanking the tree to give us more possible meanings for this week. So starting with the card on the left, we'll turn them all over. We have the book. Next to the book, we have the house. On the other side of the tree, we have the stars, and next to that, we have the ring. So the first thing I'm going to say is that these are very nice cards. So these are great cards for the week. So as I do with the line of 5, I begin to look at the cards surrounding the tree as offering more depth or meaning for the focus. So the card on the far left is the book. And so now for me, the book represents education, it can represent knowledge, it can represent learning. So for some of us watching this video, we may be embarking on a course of study, we may be learning something or teaching something, because that could be, you know, an either or dual part of the process. The book can also represent something that is a secret or some sort of mystery, but I go with the illustration of the book being open, so I don't necessarily see it so much with that. I tend to see that when the book is open, it's like playing on the idea of being an open book. So, you know, there's really nothing hidden. I always see it as, you know, knowledge that's accessible if you choose to read up on it. So for me personally, I also see the book as a deck of cards, because I play on the idea of being a reader, so not just a reader of books, but I also read cards. So for me, it can represent a deck of cards and being a card reader. So going with the idea of book and tree as a possible pair, then I could see this as, if you go with the idea that the tree represents tree of life, then this could be a book, going with the book, on Kabbalah, which is all about the tree of life. So somebody could be, you know, a student or, you know, taking up the reading of the Kabbalah. And not just the Kabbalah, let's say. The book in this regard, going with the idea that the tree can represent, you know, spiritual growth and development. It could be any text that would support that. So it could be, you know, any kind of sacred text. So it could be, you know, the Bible. It could be A Course in Miracles. It could be any kind of text that supports your spiritual growth and development. So I'm seeing that now in terms of the book being a deck of cards and being a reader. Then for me, I would look at the pair as my growth as a reader, or my future growth, you know, as the result of being a reader. One of the things that I'm always doing in terms of my Lenormand study, going with the book, is I'm always asking how I'm progressing, how my ability as a reader is growing and developing. So I see that with the pair of the book and the tree for me. So now the card in between these two cards is the house. And so for me, the house can represent one's home life, one's personal life. It can represent family. Any person or persons that you share, you know, share living space with, it would represent that. So I'm seeing that now, keeping it relative to me, I live alone. So for me, I tend to look at home life and I tend to look at personal life because I'm a single person. So, but if you live with other people, it could be about you and the people that you share living space with. So I'm seeing that. And for me, I also see the house as, a small business or a home-based business. And going with what I said about the book and the tree, about my growth as a reader, I do work from home and I do see clients in my own space. And I also travel to see them in their homes. So the home in that regard can represent the dual aspect of either, clients coming to my house or me traveling to see clients in their homes, wherever they're going to feel comfortable, because that's another aspect of the house. The house can represent comfort. So I'm seeing that. Now, another thing that I'm seeing with this pair is that, and this is just personal for me, that I actually do have a deck of cards going with the book coming to the house, and that should happen either later today or at some point this week. So I'm expecting the arrival of that. So I like how that's showing up in the beginning of the line for me. So I'm seeing that. Now, the pair of house and tree, I'm seeing something interesting here because I said that the house can represent one's immediate family or the ones that you're sharing space with, the ones closest to you. And then the flip side of that is that the tree can represent extended family. So I'm seeing that. It could also represent our family lineage or ancestry, because I always see the tree in that regard as the family tree. And so, the idea of a family tree, it has many branches on it, so to speak, and each branch just reveals another family connection, either family that's above you, which means that they came before you, or below you, which means that they came after you, but some sort of lineage or ancestry. So going with the idea that the tree can represent health and healing, it could be that, either you or somebody that you're living with or, sharing living space with might be going under or undergoing some sort of healing process since the tree is coming after it. So I'm seeing that. It could also be, going with the three cards here, the book, the house, and the tree, it could be that somebody may be feeling the need to read up on their family history in terms of health. There may be something that's being experienced on a physical level in terms of healing or a health-related issue, and it may be something that runs in the person's family history, or there's a need to explore that to kind of help clarify that. And that's a nice way of me segueing over to the next card, because I said clarity, and the stars is all about clarity because it represents things becoming clear. That's just one way of looking at the stars. So I'm seeing that. Since I'm talking about the stars can be a card that represents inspiration, it can represent guidance, it can represent direction. I tend to look at the stars as a very universal card. It, for me, can represent the universe, it could represent the metaphysical, things of that nature. So now, keeping with the idea that the tree can represent health and healing in that regard, then I see the stars as a card of like the universal life energy. And so for those of you who are Reiki practitioners, that term will be familiar to you because that's what we call Reiki. Reiki is Japanese for universal life energy. So I'm seeing that. And going with that, then the cards coming before it could be like somebody is studying or taking up that they're studying to become either a Reiki practitioner, or they're studying to be a Reiki master teacher, or that the person is a Reiki teacher and they're teaching out of their home, because I'm seeing that because that's how I learned from my Reiki master teacher. She taught all of her classes out of her home, so I would always have to travel to her home to take the classes. Another thing, that since the book can represent taking up a course of study or learning, then the book and the stars could represent, doing something online. And then added with that, then the house would be like a home study course, or you're taking an online course but you're doing it at home, which is how I learned for my bachelor's and master's in psychology. I did that online, and I took all my classes, I did the work at home. and going with that, then it kind of dovetails back to the center card, being healing, being a healer. So not only am I a Reiki practitioner and I can assist people with their physical well-being, but I'm also a counselor, and so I can help them with their emotional well-being as well. So, but I did that all by studying at home, but doing it online. So I'm seeing those cards. So somebody may be embarking on the same path since I'm seeing it that way. And so the last card in the line is the ring. And so the ring can represent commitment. It can represent cycles. It can represent a contract. It could represent a bond, an agreement, or some form of engagement. So we have, going with the idea of bringing or combining all the cards with the center card, then in this particular case we have the pair of tree and ring. So I'm seeing that as the possibility of committing to health and healing, going back to the tree, committing to personal growth or spiritual growth and development. Then the pair of the tree and the ring can also represent life, cycles, or the cycles of life. And it's very interesting going with the card in between, which was the stars. We're all embarking on a change upcoming in our own personal year cycles because, again, going with the idea that the stars can represent something of a metaphysical nature, I first got into metaphysics by dabbling into astrology and numerology, which could be parts of this stars card, besides divination, going with the book, which is what I kind of moved into once I picked up tarot. But I used to do numerology charts, and so one of the things with numerology is that we all embark on a universal cycle every time the year changes, but we also undergo personal year cycles. And so all of us are going to be experiencing, both now that we're coming to the end of the year. I mean, we're in the middle of November now, but usually what happens is those changes don't take place energetically right at the beginning of the calendar year. So it won't start January 1st, even though it does. We tend to feel the energy of it, a little bit of time before and a little bit of time after. So we could start feeling the effects of our own universal and personal year changes right about now. So I'm seeing that. That's very interesting to see with this line. So I'm seeing that. And so going with the idea that the tree can represent actual health, and I already touched on it with the family and ancestry kind of thing going on with the book and the house before the tree, then the ring could be, since it's a circular object, it can represent things like the circulatory system, because, going with the pun on circular. So it could be that somebody gains more clarity about an issue dealing with the circulatory system and how they can improve that or heal that. So I'm seeing that as a possibility. Now, again, I have to put out a disclaimer that I am not a medical professional. I'm not a doctor or anything like that. So I'm not diagnosing anyone. I'm not giving a prognosis or a prescription of anything. I'm just suggesting that that could be one of the possibilities, And giving with that, if we go with the idea, because this is just popping into my head as I'm putting out that disclaimer, going with the idea that the tree represents health and healing, then the ring can also represent something recurring. So it could be a recurring health experience or a recurring health challenge that needs to be looked at or, becomes clear, going with the stars, or, that you gain more clarity or direction or guidance about. But it could be something that's recurring. So I'm seeing that with the ring. So next thing we can do is we can look at the outer pair of the book and the ring. So I'm seeing that, and going with the idea, I love how I just said this, so going with the idea with the ring being something recurring, then it could be a recurring form of or course of study with the book. And in that regards, I'm seeing it in terms of like, people who have to get, recertified, recertification. So I'm seeing that. So someone watching this may be engaged in a process where they have to undergo some recurring coursework. And to do that, it would be to get recertified in some shape, form, or fashion. And that would be especially if you're a teacher of some kind, because, again, the book can represent teaching and being a teacher. So I would see that as one possibility. Then it could also be making the commitment, going with the ring, to a particular course of study, going with the book. And then the last thing is that the Lenormand can be very literal, so it can be with the book an actual book, and then the ring an actual contract, so the pairing could be a book contract. So I'm seeing that as a possibility. Okay, then going with the inner pair, we have the house and the stars, and so that could be possibly, personal, going with the idea, like I said, for me, the house being something personal. Then the stars would be inspiration or guidance. Then it could be going with the idea of the home. Could be the home, actual home, of a metaphysical practitioner, going with the stars, and that would be somebody who is an astrologer, somebody who does divination work with cards, things of that nature. And again, that could be a personal reference to me because, again, I do that in my own personal practice, and I also work from home. And having said the part about working from home, then it could be the small business, going with the house, of a metaphysical practitioner. And then going with the idea of the tree, going back to the focus, being about growth and development, then these three cards could be the idea about getting clear direction or guidance. That would be all aspects of the stars on how to grow and develop a small business, going back to the house. And with that too, the idea with a small business, it could be not just necessarily your business per se, but it could be like your brand. Everybody talks about branding these days when it comes to business. So the idea about growth from knowing or recognizing or becoming more clear about what your brand is. So I'm seeing that as a possibility. And so one of the things we can do here is that we can kind of create meaning with the entire line of cards. And so I call that forward narration. So I tend to look at each card providing a word or some words in an overall sentence that would be like the overall meaning. And so what I'm about to offer is just one perspective. So this would be just one possibility of how I would see the cards in the moment. So I'm seeing it as a possibility of a book, going with the book, on personal with the house, growth and development with the tree, that inspires, going with the stars, a commitment, going with the ring, to a goal, going back to the stars. So that could be one possibility for the week ahead. And going with that, I'm seeing that the book could actually be in the home. So it could be, if you're like me and you have lots of books around the house, it could be like you suddenly get the inspiration or the guidance or the direction, going back to the stars, that it's time to pick up a certain book and read it. And it would be either for your overall personal growth and development or spiritual growth and development. But it could be already around the house and you're just being led to read the book now. That kind of thing. So I'm seeing that. The book in question could be, I said about personal and spiritual growth and development. It could also actually be a book on healing, and the interesting thing about it could be a book on physical healing. I talked about, being a counselor, that, you're dealing with mental well-being and emotional well-being, but it could actually be physical well-being, because if you look at the house could be, the house you live in, and that would be the physical structure, but your body is also the house that your spirit, going with the idea of the stars, the idea that your spirit or your soul resides in. And so going with that could be, another spiritual aspect of it. But going with the idea that the house can represent comfort, it could be that you read something of an inspirational or spiritual or metaphysical nature that helps you become more comfortable being in the skin that you're in. Now that I said that, I'm seeing Louise Hay and in my head. And so those of you who may know Louise Hay, she's all about, learning to love ourselves, and she's all about that. And and one of the ways to do that is to become more comfortable in the skin that you're in, because it's yours, and it's uniquely yours. I mean, it's no one else has the same body type that you do, so it's yours, unless you're a twin. But even with that, there's going to be some level of difference. So I'm seeing that. So, how can you become more comfortable being in the skin that you're in this week? And how can that be something that help heals you in a way that help furthers your personal growth and development and your spiritual growth and development? So it could be that you find a source of inspiration, and could it actually be a book that you have lying around the house that you're saying, now's the time to read, and not only read it, but they may ask you to do things in the book like exercises or something that you have to commit to doing. So I'm seeing that. So that's one way to read the line. So the next thing we can do is that we can look at the playing cards for more information, and I call that technique looking at the hidden dynamics. All right, and so now we're going to take a look at the hidden dynamics in the line of 5, and we're going to turn to the playing cards, which are located at the top of each of the cards, and we're going to see what further information or guidance playing on the stars could be offered to us in terms of this personal growth or spiritual growth and development that we might be experiencing this week that could help aid us in some form of healing. So the first thing that I notice about the cards, first off, we have the 10 of diamonds on the book. We have the King of Hearts on the house. We have the 7 of Hearts on the tree. We have the 6 of Hearts on the stars, and we have the Ace of Clubs on the ring. So the first thing that strikes me is that the 3 center cards are all from the suit of hearts. So hearts in cartomancy for me can represent things of a domestic nature, domestic matter. So and I'm saying that because the King of Hearts is on the house card, so it kind of reinforces that idea. So there may be something of a personal nature that we're going to experience this week, or something that's connected to family in the sense of like a domestic matter. Hearts can also represent something of an emotional nature, so it could be our emotional well-being as well. So I'm seeing that, and that was what I would call the ruling majority, because 3 out of the 5 cards are from the same suit. So for the hidden dynamics, we tend to look at the cards that are flanking the center card, and we look at them in pairs. And so the first pair we have is we have the outer pair. So we look at the 10 of diamonds, and we look at the Ace of Clubs. And so all you do in this particular case is just take the numbers and add them together. So we have 10 and we have 1. So that adds to 11. So the 11th card in the deck is the Whip. And so the Whip shows up quite a bit in our weekly readings. And so the Whip is a card, and I'll set it down here so we can see it a little better. So the Whip is a card that can represent things like repetition. So it plays off the idea of the ring being something recurring. So it could be something that's repeating, repetitious activity. It could be trying to clear things up. And so it's very interesting the way I sometimes lay the cards, because they add levels of meaning. So trying to clear things up would be, this card represents trying to work something out, trying to sort something out. And if you go with the idea that the book can represent sometimes, something that's a mystery, or something that's a secret, or something that's unknown to us, then this would be trying to sort that thing out. And so it could be going with the idea that I said about, the idea about the tree being something representing genealogy or ancestry, or something that's running through families in terms of family lineage. It may be a health-related matter. Then the Whip could be like, trying to sort that out, or trying to work through that. So I'm seeing that as a possibility. The other thing here is this commitment with the ring at the end. Then the Whip in that regard would be, a workout, or some sort of discipline, or some sort of training, something of that nature. So it could be, if we go back to the focus being about health and healing of that nature, then it could be making a commitment with the ring to some sort of exercise regime, or some exercise routine, or something of that nature, or, committing to a personal trainer. If you go with the idea that the stars can represent life coaching, that's one aspect I left out previously, but it's showing up now. A life coach is somebody who helps us with a goal, and helps us become clear on what the goal is, and then helps us work to achieve it. So for somebody this week, they could be working with the personal trainer, or they develop some sort of discipline in terms of an exercise routine, and with that, the idea is that they're committing to a health related goal. So I'm seeing that with the whip. And even with that, I'm being told to put it back. And so if that, the idea with the course of study here with the book, another aspect that I touched on, then the whip could be, becoming disciplined, disciplined with the course of study. So, you're making yourself actually do the work, kind of thing, sitting down and reading, sitting down and doing the exercises, sitting down and doing whatever it takes to accomplish the goal of that course of study. But you have to create some sort of discipline around it. So I'm seeing that with the whip as well. So that's the outer pair. Then what we do is we can take the inner pair, going with the King of Hearts, which is valued at 13 in cartomancy for me, and then the 6 of Hearts. So 13 and 6 is 19, and the 19th card in the deck is the Tower. And so the Tower can represent a couple of things. So I'll set it here on this side. So the Tower can represent some form of institution. It could represent something of an official nature. It could represent a period where we need to separate ourselves or isolate ourselves. But I'm seeing this more as something being made official. So I'm seeing that. So it could be, in this regard, it could be like some sort of rule. It could be a regulation. It could be a policy. So I'm seeing that in terms of the idea, like if you're taking some course of study, there may be some rules or regulations that are involved in that course of study. If you're, studying something of a health or healing nature, it may be connected to an actual institution or some university or something of that. I'm thinking about a large building, something of that nature. Even though you may be doing it online, going with the stars, it could be accredited through, some institution. So I'm seeing that, or, it could also be like a healing institution, like, somebody studying to actually be a healer. It could be some traditional form of healing. So that could be like a doctor or some sort of, practitioner, but maybe more of a traditional nature. So I'm seeing that with the Tower. So another thing we can do, we can take the values of all the cards, the playing cards, and add them together. So we have 10 with the 10 of diamonds. Then we have 13. We have 7 because the tree has a 7 of hearts. Then we have 6. And then we have 1 with the ace. And so that gives us 37. So we have a value over 36 because there's only 36 cards in the deck. So what I do is I take the 3 and the 7, add them together, and then we have a value of 10. So the 10th card in the Lenormand is the Scythe. And so the Scythe can represent something sudden. I'll put it right there for now. It could represent something sudden, something quick, something fast. It can represent something abrupt. In terms of health and healing, going with the tree underneath it, then this could represent the idea of, something being cut. And so one thing that could represent, it could be surgery. It could also be about a break, so somebody could experience some sort of injury or some sort of surgery. And with that, they could be needing to research that or needing to become more clear on what that all entails in terms of the procedure. But I'm seeing that it could also be, some sort of disconnect, because I sometimes see the Scythe as a disconnection card or a disruption card. So it could be like whatever this health challenge is, it's like it disrupts things. It could be something that, comes on suddenly, but it's something that's disruptive until it's found out what is causing it, because there may be some element of the unknown attached to that. And so it could be something that is unknown about it until they get clarity on it, then they'll know how to address it. And with that, it could also represent, as a result of that, something that needs to be addressed quickly. So I'm seeing that as well. So those are aspects of the scythe for me. Could represent something sudden, something needing to be addressed quickly, things of that nature. So I'm seeing that as the scythe. So that would be some aspect of looking at the playing cards for the hidden dynamics. And so now what we'll do is we'll look at the final aspect of the cards for the week and to kind of wrap things up. Okay, so for this week's reading so far, we've looked at the line of 5, we looked at all the pairings in between, and kind of came up with a summation using forward narration, reading the cards from left to right, and then we turned to the playing cards on each of the cards and looked at the cards that came up as the hidden dynamics to kind of maybe shed some more light or add another layer of depth or meaning to the reading. And now the final thing we can do is we can look for what's called the essence card. And the way we do that is we look at all the numbers that are assigned to each of the cards and we add them together to find out what that particular essence card is, which kind of can result in saying this is the bottom line, this is the final advice, that kind of thing. Just it's another way of offering another layer of meaning or perspective. So the book is 26, the house is 4, the tree is 5, the stars is 16, and the ring is 25. So that gives us a total of 76. And so again, keeping with the idea that it's over 36, we take the 7 and the 6 and add them together and we hit 13. So the 13th card in the deck is the child, and the child can represent something new. So I'll put it here in the middle for now. The child card can always represent something new. It represents a beginning stage because children are new beings coming into the world. They talked about, the physical body holding the soul and the soul incarnating, and so a child is a new incarnation into the physical world. So it can represent something new, something beginning. The child card can also represent something small. So this idea of if we're going with the idea like, keeping with the tree being health and healing, and then the scythe above it maybe representing some sort of surgery, then the child could represent either the surgery is either minor surgery or it's a new surgery. And I'm saying that because now I'm seeing a friend of mine who I just found out yesterday was supposed to have had surgery scheduled this month, and then it was rescheduled for next month. So, it could be like if somebody was embarking on the same path as this particular woman, they may have a new surgery date. It may get changed, and it may get changed suddenly because she found out like 10 hours before she was supposed to go in to have the surgery done. And that's when she found out. So it could be like something abrupt, something sudden, you all of a sudden you find out it's been changed. And it may be as a result of a prior health related thing, because that was another aspect of it. She had some sudden occurrence of something and it kind of pushed back the surgery she was supposed to have done. So I'm seeing all of that. So that may be something else that somebody else can relate to this week. The other thing about the child, in terms of all the other things I said about, the house. So the house could be like a child in the house. Then it could also be like a person who's reading up on something. So it could be, let's say the book contract could be, a children's book, and getting that, worked on or worked through. It could also be like if you're a teacher and you're getting recertified, you could be a teacher of actual children. So I'm seeing those kinds of things that could be connected to the child, but overall it just represents something new that we are embarking on. And so it's a learning stage of development. If it's a new learning experience, you're not going to know, going with the idea of the book, it may be something that you're not going to know everything you need to know going in. It may be something that you gain experience as you move through it. It could be something that I call it like if it was a job, when you go in and you get training, going with the whip, you go and get training, it may be you get on the job training. So this experience could be like you're on the job training. You get it, you get the knowledge as a result of having the experience and moving through the experience. So I'm seeing that with the child. So those are all aspects of the week. So summing up the cards, You have the book, which represents knowledge, it represents learning, it represents some course of study, and it could also represent an actual book. The house could represent your home life, your personal life, people that you share living space with. If you have a small business or you work from home, then this card would also fit for you. The focus card, being the tree, could represent your personal growth, your spiritual growth and development, focusing on your health, and healing and well-being this week. The stars could be, inspiration and guidance and clarity surrounding that. And then the ring would be, is once you get the direction, once you get the guidance, once you get the clarity, then you may be required to make some form of commitment, and then making it official, going back to the tower. But the ring would be, some sort of commitment, and it would be something that you'd have to be willing to be engaged in. You have to engage in the process. And really, that's what, going back to the tree being about life, that's really what the ring is asking us to do, is how can we be more engaged with the life that we have? Not hope and wish for somebody else's way of living. How can you appreciate the life that you have? So this has been the line of 5, and so now I'm going to turn it over to you. In the comment section below, share with me what you see in the cards. If you happen to read Lenormand, or, hearing what I've said, how does it relate to you? If you're seeing something else, what is that, and how is that connected to you in your life experience? I would love to hear it. So leave that in the comment section below. So again, this has been the weekly Lenormand Outlook. I am James Himm Mitchell, and I thank you for sharing this space and giving me your time and attention in this reading. And I look forward to sharing this space here with you again in our next video. And until then, have a great week and take care.